September, what is today, 14, 2023, if you can believe it or not. We're halfway through the month of September. We are leaving summer behind, and we are headed into the fall. Welcome to tonight's, again, Northeast Neighborhood Housing Strategy Oversight Committee. I'm Dr. Holt, and I have the privilege of chairing our work tonight. I'm going to do a real quick roll call for the members that I see. And I'm going to begin with our Zoom participant, Tanisha Renee. If you would identify yourself.
Hi, good evening. I'm Tanisha Renee, and I am a committee member.
Good evening. We'll go around the table, beginning with Achilles Montaz.
Hello, this is Achilles Montaz. Nice to meet everybody.
Good to see you in person, sir. Mr. Washington.
John Washington, good evening. John Washington, good evening.
Thank you very much, Miss Virgie.
Virgie Ruiz.
Wonderful. That is, so far, the number of committee members who are in the space. We've got a full agenda, so I trust that we will adhere to, as much as we can, what is on the agenda for tonight's meeting. If you have a question and or comment for items that are not on the agenda, let me direct you to the Portland Housing Bureau staff. I will have the staff who can, that are on Zoom, please turn your cameras on and wave at those who are in the space. Those are the individuals you would reach out to should you have questions, if you have concerns and you want to interact. And then we have some that are in the room as well. So Portland Housing Bureau staff. Awesome. Thank you very much. Glad you are with us. With those disclaimers, there will be a moment for public comment. My request is that your comment be in relationship to that which is on the agenda. Again, if there are items that are not on the agenda, we certainly encourage you to follow up and engage around those, and to do that by talking to staff directly. So with that being said, I am going to go to our first item, PHB General Update, Ms. Leslie Goodlow.
Good evening, everyone. Leslie Goodlow, Equity and Business Operations Manager for the Housing Bureau. Just wanted to give you a couple updates about things that are going on in the Bureau. I did forward out to you all the appointment of Michael Bonacore as the interim PHB Director. He will be in place while we finish up the recruitment for a permanent director. We have interviewed 6 candidates in 2 different interview with the same interview panel. We are planning to do a second round of interviews with 3 to 4 of the first 6, hopefully on the 29th of this month. And then the next step will be for any of those finalists to be interviewed by Commissioner Rubio. So we are hoping to have that wrapped up by the end of October. If things go according to plan, we could have a permanent director appointed within the next 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks. Additionally, tomorrow is Molly's last day. Molly Rogers is she's going to be the new Washington County Housing Director. So tomorrow is her last day. We have begun the looking at the budget process for 24-25. We have been doing some participating in some citywide work groups. Angel and I about combining and looking at budgets based on service area. And so we will be working on that. And then the current CAO, Mike Jordan, released the draft org chart for the city of Portland under the new charter. So if you have not seen that, I think I sent it out to all of you, but if I have not, I can send that. So we will not be recruiting, I won't say it in the negative way. We will be recruiting for a deputy director and a policy and planning manager after we have a PHB director named. So hopefully, again, within the next 4 to 6 weeks, we can get a full executive committee, executive team back in place at PHB. So unless there's any questions, that's kind of our general updates right now.
Thank you very much. I will defer to the committee if there are any questions for Ms. Goodlow. Tanisha, question at all? Hearing none.
Sorry.
Okay. Hearing none, we will move to our next item. Gentlemen, good to see you. I'll let you introduce yourselves and your roles. Welcome into tonight's meeting.
Good evening, Dr. Holt and committee members. My name is John Trin. I am the Neighborhood Housing Preservation Manager, and my colleague here is...
Good evening. My name is Ira Bailey. I am the Housing Program Coordinator, or a Housing Program Coordinator at the Housing Bureau. There's a bunch of us. I work specifically with our home ownership programs and tie with you all here for the preference policy.
Today, we're going to give you some updates on home ownership and also a recommendation that we hope you all be able to support us. All right.
Thank you. Next slide, please. Oh, thank you. So the last time we met, we were able to celebrate that the City of Portland Housing Bureau, we were able to hit that goal of 111 homeowners in the North-Northeast strategy preference policy. We've actually had a total of 124 families to date, which is technically the same number that I reported last time. We have not had a homeowner close in the preference policy since that time, since March. The primary reasons that people have found challenging to help people get into home ownership are the continuing prices, or the home prices, which are still very high, as well as the increasing interest rates, which have just priced people out of the market and actually have made some of the families afraid to enter the market at this time. But our partners continue to work with the families, continue to encourage them, to the extent that we actually have one person who's currently shopping with some of our funding and one person who is set to close in the next few weeks on a home. So this number will go up next time we talk. Next slide. Again, the breakdown of by race and ethnicity. You know, this family or this program we know was targeted to help families who had been displaced by city action. Those families primarily were Black. The families that have been helped with the preference policy primarily have been Black. But we've helped other races, other ethnicities, so it's not a Black-only program, but it is targeted. It is hitting the people that we wanted to target. Next slide. Again, the AMIs, so 0 to 60, we've had about 30% there. But as you can see, most of the families' AMIs are going to be above 60%, many above 80 and 100%. Fortunately, we were able to support that much higher income families in partnership with Prosper Portland, who were able to provide us some funding dollars for our down payment assistance loan. We call it DPAL, to help families up to 120% AMI.
AMI stand for?
Our AMI stands for Area Median Income. Thank you. Next slide. We also, with the encouragement and guidance of the Oversight Committee, started our Homeownership Asset Preservation Program. This is a program that helps current homeowners, mostly those under 80% area median income, to receive other services to help them secure the wealth that they have attained in their home ownership. So it helps families write up wills, establish trusts, families that are struggling to retain home ownership through probate. It helps them as well by providing free legal services for them. This program we have in partnership with African American Alliance for Home Ownership for counseling for these families, and then African American Home, sorry, it's hard, I normally don't say the whole thing, has partnered, and we partner with the Commons Law Center, who provides the legal services. For this fiscal year, or for last fiscal year, and that was July 1st through 2022 through June 30th, there were a total of 8 webinars. The great news is that now that COVID is kind of fading, you know, it has a comeback like styles, like clothing styles. But it is faded for the most part. They are starting, or is planning on doing some in-person sessions, info sessions to help generate people to participate in the pipeline. Last year, there were 42 total households who had attended. 27 of them actually enrolled in the program, and of those 27, 21 were able to get legal issues addressed. The reason why you don't have the full 27 is sometimes it takes a little bit to prepare them to receive legal services, and then there are sometimes when it's hard to get a hold of folks or documentation that it's hard to get a hold of. So I believe that is my, next slide, please. Thank you. So this is just kind of a quick demographics of the people who've enrolled in the program. As you can see, again, all of them are under 80% AMI. The great thing about the Commons Law Center I want to point out too is that they do serve clients that are low income. So families that are slightly above 80% AMI are still able to receive services at discounted rates, which is great. And then the demographic information of the families that have been serviced, as you can see, most have identified as female heads of household. And then there's just kind of a slight variation in the race and ethnicity of those families. So are there any questions regarding the update? Thank you.
All right, next slide, please. So I'm going to talk about in terms of down payment assistance. At the end, it's really the recommendation from us regarding in terms of an increase to our down payment assistance program. So down payment assistance program is subsidies to help new home buyer, first-time home buyer, I should say, to purchase home. We have 6 different type of funding source, from Interstate TIF, Prosper, Lens TIF, CDBG, which is Community Development Block Grant, STR, which is short-term rental, and there's 2 types of short-term rental, one for a limit of $100,000 and the other one's $80,000. So you have the limits there. You also have home improvement grants. So out of the down payment subsidy that we offer, certain percentage has to go towards home improvement, and those home improvements considered grants, and so it's not part of the loan. The area medium income, some of those funders, funding stream have a limit of income that you would qualify for. So for example, Interstate TIF has to be 80% or lower, whereas Prosper, it would be 80%, between 80% and 120% area medium income. The funding also has some restriction in terms of location where you could purchase the home. So Interstate TIF, of course, is going to be in the northeast area. There's STR with short-term rental, it's going to be citywide. And of course, the Lens TIF, which is tax increment funding, is going to be in the Lens area. Some of the fundings also are tied to our preference policy. And so the one that are tied to our preference policy, of course, is the Interstate TIF, the Prosper, and also the STR, which is short-term rental, $400,000 citywide. And as I put a note there, so even though, let's say the Interstate TIF has a area median income of 80% or less, if a person is looking for a 3-bedroom AMI, it could go up to 100%. So that's a side note. So this is, again, just a 3,000 feet level of this type of funding we have for short-term, down payment assistance program for the subsidy. Next slide, please. When you look at in terms of what who we offered our down payment assistance program to by race, as you can see from 2021 through 2023, which is, again, we're in 2023, so about midpoint. The majority we serve is, of course, the Black and African American. We have the Hispanic, we have white, and folks who decline, and also Native American demographic in there. So in 2021, we served 29, 2022, 13, and so far in 2023, 18. We'll hope to, of course, continue that number in 2023 by the end of the year. Next slide, please. As Ira has mentioned, some of the challenges, especially coming out from COVID, home price is still high. Even though it declines a little bit, we still see home prices really high. We know that the inventory is low, and also we see that interest rate is high. It's above 7% the last time I looked at it. Next slide, please. When I look at the MLS, which is the multiple listing service data, for the past 12 months, ending in May of 2023, in the state, they sold about 740 homes, in Lentz about 328, and citywide, almost 8,700 homes that they sold. When you look at the average price or the median price, you can see in terms of the Northeast, the average price is $560,000, and the median price is $530,000. Lentz is a little less, still high, $391, median price $390, and citywide is about $600 for average price and $524 for a median price. Next slide, please. This is a cool chart that Ira put together, and it's really highlighting in terms of where people income falls when you look at the average median income. If you look at 80% is some of the funding requires someone to be 80% or less. And so if one household person at 80% is about $63,150 per year. We would like to see people pay about 30% of their income towards housing. And we think that's going to be successful for someone who's going to be able to pay that much. When you look at in terms of or the voucher system, people who are on a voucher system, they pay 30% of their income towards the housing. The yellow is like, yeah, I think we could go with 40%. So at 40%, they pay $2,100 for a one-person household. I think they could still be successful. But when you look at in terms of someone who's have to pay 50% of their income towards housing, we have concern. Because if something happened within their household, they may not be able to pay for their mortgage, and they might be in default. They may be faced with foreclosure and so forth. So it gets to the point where someone paying 50% of their income towards their household, there's a concern. You want to add anything else, Ida?
So I just as a quickie, I put this chart together to help us understand that when we talk about these programs, we often talk in terms of AMI, but I wanted to put some real numbers and understanding to what that really means. And I put the colors on there because when it comes to like homeownership counseling, homeownership education, it's pretty standard that affordability, the safe affordability and target affordability is always about 30%, 30 to 33% of a person's gross monthly income. And then at 50%, as John mentioned, you do run the risk. I mean, it may be sustainable for a little while, but in the cases of emergency, you're not going to have that. So lenders tend not to, for the most part, lend 50% of a person's gross just to their home ownership, but they may have a 50% total DTI, which can still be dangerous. But there are lenders out there who would do it. And so our goal is always to try to maintain an affordability, not just being able to get into the home, but making sure that the home they get into is something that they can sustain long term. So,
next slide, please. So I put together an example, or I put together an example. So if we look at terms of Northeast Interstate, and we look at in terms of the median income home that was sold was about $530,000. Down payment of $100,000, 10% went to home improvements. That was a grant. So really the subsidy for down payment was $90,000. That leaves a mortgage loan of $440,000. Today interest rate, let's say, is a little bit above 7%, but just for simplicity, kept at 7%. So principal and interest payment will be about $3,500 that a person would have to pay for their mortgage. If you add an escrow payment of maybe property insurance, hazard insurance, you're adding another $426 to it. So a total payment a person would have to pay is almost $4,000. Next slide, please. So going back to this slide, if someone has to pay $4,000, and let's say this is a two-person income, That means at 80% AMI, the total income for the household is $72,000. 50% of the income in the red is $3,000. But with the last example, they're paying $4,000. So that's way above 50%. So that's concerning for us. Next slide, please. When you look at our DPOW, down payment assistance loan program, from a historical perspective, in 2017, our DPOW amount that we were offering was about $80,000. The prices back then was about $325,000. That comes out to be almost 25% subsidy that we were offering to first-time home buyers. In 2018, we increased the DPOW to 100%. Oh, I'm sorry, $100,000. I'm sorry, $100,000. The average price increased a little bit to almost $334,000, and the subsidy, of course, when you make that calculation, is almost 30%. If you take an average of 2017 through 2022, that's roughly about 27% that we provide subsidy for first-time home buyer. But if you look at in terms of 2022, $100,000 for a home that is $432,000, that's only 23% subsidy. Now you take that calculation and say that if the home price is $500,000 and we're offering $100,000, 80, it would be $100,000.
About 20%.
It would be about 20%. Sorry. Next slide, please. So our recommendation is to increase the North-Northeast down payment assistance loan program to $125,000 from $100,000 currently. That's an increase of $25,000. We haven't increased this for the past 5 years. So the last time we increased was from $80,000 to $100,000. And so we're recommending to increase it to an increase of $25,000. For the lens DPOW, we're requesting an increase from $80,000 to $100,000. Now, of course, with the lens, we don't have a lot of money in the lens area, right? And so our partner agency, usually when they give out down payment assistance loan program, they're not giving the maximum. They may give someone $40,000, they may give someone $20,000. They want to make sure that they could spread their resources to as many home buyers as possible. Now, what does it mean in terms of North-Northeast? Increase to 125 with the limited dollars amount that we have for down payment assistance, rather than serving 16 household, we would then be serving 14 household. So that's the, I guess, the downside of increasing it, because we're just working with a limited dollar amount.
So I just wanted to add, we have vetted this with Commissioner Rubio, and she is in support of increasing the down payment amount. And so our goal tonight was to have you all weigh in to balance the decrease in the number of people to be increasing the number of people that will currently be able to purchase. Because based on current market conditions, as they mentioned, very few people have been able to buy, and this will assist people with being able to purchase now. And it will be a decrease of 2 people overall with those dollars that we have available.
Thank you very much. Can we go back to gallery view? I want to see if I have any other members who've joined. I do not see any other committee members. I'm going to go to Tanisha and ask you if you have any questions first. Tanisha.
I don't. No, I don't have any question, and I would support the idea. I think that would be really great to help 14 people get something instead of people really struggling to not be able to find anything.
Thank you very much. Jillian.
I think Mr. Washington had his name up first, actually, Dr. Holt.
Thank you, Jillian. But you can go ahead. You read my mind, but.
So I have a few questions. Earlier you said that families were afraid to purchase. Was that because of fear of not being able to afford the mortgage, fear that there was a bubble? Are there some specifics around that at all?
So unfortunately, it's not reported. It is me asking the partners, why aren't people potentially buying in Northeast? Because as you may be aware, I don't know if you fully tracked, we have a few families with PCRI and most of the families are with PHC. And seeing that we recently haven't had anyone purchase in Northeast specifically since December 2021. So my question is, why aren't people purchasing there? And that is the answer, is that they're afraid to enter the market because they're afraid of a bubble. They're afraid that they just won't be able to sustain the home ownership. But outside of those two answers, I wasn't given any more beyond those two, as far as fear goes. Yeah.
My other question is looking at the chart that you put together about what creates somebody who is rent burdened and at 80% AMI for a family of four. Does a $25,000 increase in the down payment assistance actually move that needle for families?
Would you like to answer?
I would say if I had all the money in the world, I would increase it more.
Yeah.
I think moving it up is always a positive. I would have to say in terms of, let's see what the community say. When I talk to our community members, they like to see that increase more. Mm-hmm. I mean, you look at in terms of interest rate 7%. You look at in terms of the cost of housing right now, the price of housing right now, it's hard. It's going to move it up a little bit, but I don't think it's going to have a big impact. That's my personal feeling. Mm-hmm. But we have limited dollars, and we have to try to spread that as much as we can.
Okay. Thank you. And then my last question is just to refresh my own memory about how the DPAL works. And my recollection is that in year 15, it starts, forgiveness begins. Is that right?
That is correct.
So it's the full amount if you were to refinance or move or sell your home in that first 15 years, the full $125,000 would be owed back to PHB?
No, it depends on, well, Ira can talk to it, but there are some contingencies around refinancing in the first 15 years.
Right, sorry, yes. But to sell or cash out refi would be?
Yeah, so standard guidelines of the program, and one, I want to say it wouldn't be the full 125. So essentially, if we are able to increase the award with your support to 125, what that essentially means is that it's about another 22,000 on top of the 90. So you're looking at 112,500. It is a 30-year silent loan, which means there's no monthly payments due. It's zero interest essentially. At year 15, 50%. Of the loan amount of that 112 would be forgiven. In the first 15 years, yes, if a family sells the home, if they refinance, there are some caveats to that. Mm-hmm. But essentially, if they sell the home or they no longer use it as a primary residence, because there is that requirement, then the loan based on the guidelines as they are written would need to be forgiven, the full amount. After year 15, on the anniversary of the purchase, about 3% of the original amount is forgiven at that point every year until the last year, the year 30th, when that anniversary hits. The remaining balance, which I think roughly estimates to like 6%, something like that, that gets completely forgiven.
And the reason that the full amount of the loan is not 125 is because 10% of it is a grant that's supposed to go to Sticks and Bricks. Just for anyone who's listening who's not familiar with the program, I just wanted to clarify why that is.
Yes, correct. And we do allow kind of a sliding scale. So we allow up to 20% to be used for Sticks and Bricks, or what we call the home improvement grant. So that portion would not have to be paid back at all. And we allow that sliding scale because families may be able to find a less expensive home that needs a little bit more work. And then to address your first question regarding, do I think it'll move the needle? As far as affordability, I can't say that I think it makes much difference. but it could be enough difference to create enough hope for people to actually start searching in that market. There are some homes that are a little bit more affordable than the 500, which is great. I thank Leslie because she also finds homes for. She is. She is. And we'll send homes to me. She'll refer them over to PHC and say, hey, this is a great house in the community. So that's the thing, is like if people are afraid to look, then the affordable homes, it doesn't matter even if they're free. If they're not looking, they'll never find them. So that's what we're hoping to change there.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Washington.
Hey guys, I appreciate you sharing some of this information with us, but I'm kind of really concerned about this issue about limited purchases in the district. This is really troublesome to me. And I think that I would encourage you to get out and find some of the reasons why that is, other than the ones you've given us. Because I'm just curious, do you guys have a sense of a trajectory as to where we're going with this increase? Do you suspect next year we're going to have to do the same thing, less money, more increase? And then where do we bottom out? What's a fair number of the amount of houses or the amount of loans of these deals? And what's fair, 5, 6? When we're starting out, we're here at 16 or 15. So I'm a little bit concerned about that also. I mean, having a sense of what that trajectory looks like. At 7%, we were hoping that everybody was able to buy at 4%, but they, those days may be long overdue, long gone. But I still would like to see some things, at least an indicator as to what the next 5 years is going to look like in terms of what our speculation is, in terms of how many people we want to reach. Because the question to me is, do we increase the money instead of decreasing the number of people? So there are some other mitigating thoughts that I'm listening to, Bailey, that I just think you guys are going to have to push a little harder, take a look at some things a little deeper. I would encourage you to do so.
I'll say one of the obstacles or benefits of the program, depending on how you look at it, is that people have options. We kind of ran into the same issue with why aren't people buying the condos, right? And it's because people had the option to find a single family home. And the preference policy, although it is designed to help support families into homeownership, it was never built to force people into a certain type of homeownership, right? Or force people into a certain area. One of the things that we wanted to do was help the families who had been impacted by the city's actions. And so we offered, for example, the citywide, as you saw on the chart, that they're citywide DPALs. The people are offered once they're identified as being mortgage ready, which means they have an income that could sustain a mortgage. Where that falls on the scale of affordability and purchase price can vary. That they have a credit score of about 640 plus, that they have some savings, that they understand their budget. So once they hit those benchmarks of becoming mortgage ready, then they're offered what's available. And if we have citywide and we have northeast, we can't force them to choose northeast if they are afraid to go there or they just don't want to go there and they have citywide available. So that's kind of been one of the challenges, is saying we're not going to force you to buy here. The other challenge is that there are families who just aren't mortgage ready. They're not ready. And so we're not keeping a pipeline of only people who are ready to buy as soon as they sign up. Some of these families need years and years and years of hand-holding, and it's not just a financial counseling session. It's not just a credit counseling session. Sometimes it's emotional. As a former counselor myself, I can speak to that you have people who are emotionally distraught, going through trauma, going through marriage issues, going through family issues and court systems, and you're hand-holding them through that. So that's really hard to say. But as far as affordability, I don't think any of us saw interest rates doubling within like a year. I don't think, although we saw the trajectory of homeownership rates, homeownership prices going up, we pushed and pushed, which is why we had the citywide, which is why we opened up some of the lends to preference policy families to get them into homeownership in a place that we thought that they could buy. So unless I would say we can do the best we can to get them mortgage ready and get them into home ownership. But as far as like trajectorying 5 years, I don't think that we could do that. I think it would be irresponsible to try to do that. But I do like your idea of giving us more money. I do like that.
Thank you. Thank you. And I do like the lure you threw out in front of me to come out there and get after you, but I'm not going to do that tonight. But what I will say to you is this, is that you sell houses. You don't force anybody to do anything. And I think the messaging that's out there now that's cautioning people to buy is an indicator that someone's selling them something. And whatever they're selling them, it's not encouraging them to buy. I mean, there's so many turbulence, so much difficulties and issues that we're facing in this district, rather if it's Nike leaving, you know, rather if you wanted to open your own business or have your own home, you know, there are a lot of stories that are out there that are being sold that are deterring people from buying also. So, you know, man, I don't want to get into that with you right now, but I do think we need to push a little harder. Okay, and I think that, you know, taking this position that says we can't force them, it's not a question of forcing them. It's a question of educating them to the degree of understanding why they should purchase. Okay, so there is you know, because we also got a lot of affordable housing around here, that we're encouraging these passive recipients of living in these kinds of conditions that have us living in projects versus owning homes. So, you know, man, we just got to be real cautious about how the messaging is and what messaging we're putting out there to people to encourage them to take this step. So that's just my thought about that.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Achilles, we're going to go to you, and I'm going to be wrapping it up here.
Yeah, I had a question. With the 25,000, what will be the difference on lowering the monthly payment? Have you guys figured out what's the number that will help them for that monthly payment by us increasing that 25,000? Or is that just to help them buy the house?
It would do both, but to be honest, I haven't done the calculation. I can do it and send that out if that's something that you would all like to see.
But it's going to vary in terms of the house, the price of the home, right? So if the price of the home is going to be $500,000, it's going to be less. But if the purchase price is $400,000, it's going to help out a little bit more.
And lastly, as you see more in the north by Interstate and the Fred Meyer area, where all these condos are going up, multi-levels, and it's forcing families to sell their home because now they're in between two buildings. We're trying to find any of those homes so that people will be able to buy it and keep them away from the developers to put another 3-story, 4 stories high and 40 units, destroying our neighborhoods. Are we doing anything about that?
Not to my knowledge, but I know that for the Tri-County, I know that our staff, Gio Chen, is working on the housing need analysis. Back to Mr. Washington, in terms of question, in terms of trying to figure out the trajectory for the next number of years. I think this need analysis is looking at 25 years down the road in terms of where the housing needs are going to be, where home ownership is going to be, what's that going to look like. And so that analysis is currently being developed, not only within the city of Portland, in combination with our neighboring counties and cities.
Thank you. Ms. Goodlow, you've got a comment, and then I'll wrap up our thought.
Okay, so just a couple of quick things that I wanted to make sure that we keep on the table is that we do have 3 developments that are going to be home ownership. So people will be able to buy. So Cary Boulevard is going to be 50 homes. The Strong or Abbey site connected to the Strong site is 7 to 8 townhomes, and then the Williams and Russell site will have the 16 to 20. We'll use that number. Townhomes that people can purchase, and the townhomes at Williams and Russell are going to be, we will be able to use down payment assistance because we're not putting money in on the front end. The other 2 projects, we're putting the subsidy into the construction. And so people wouldn't be able to get down payment assistance from us, but they may qualify for down payment assistance from some other programs to help them purchase. And then last but not least, we did get some great news. It's not about Interstate, but that There's going to be some additional funds available in Gateway that we are going to be able to do some more home ownership and home repair in that area. And we do have, Jill, tell me if I'm wrong, 5 new districts that we're looking at, TIF districts? New Cully.
1 second. Jill, I'm going to ask you to come to the table, please, and speak into a microphone so that you can be captured by those who are not in the room with us. So thank you very much. Tell folks who you are, what you do, where you work.
Thank you, Dr. Holt. For the record, I'm Jill Chen, Housing Investments and Portfolio Preservation Manager. Regarding the TIF, we've got the Cully TIF district, which is already in establishment. And the East Portland, the discussion is for 3 separate districts, and that would also be available. And then there's also discussion for a Central City TIF district. And that will encompass not only the Central City, but parts of the broader, like parts of Central East Side. And that discussion is still ongoing, but those are the 5 districts I believe you're talking about.
So I just wanted I mentioned those things because even though interstate, we are winding down with these remaining 3 or 4 projects, there are going to be other opportunities for people to be able to purchase homes. Folks out in East Portland who want to stay in East Portland will be they'll be able to purchase out there. And Cully is really working on how do they utilize the funds that they're going to be generating, their TIF funds. I know they're looking at home ownership and home repair as 2 of the key programming areas to keep people and create new homeowners.
Well, thank you very much. Very fruitful discussion. Gentlemen, don't take off just yet. And I appreciate the questions and comments of the committee. A few things I want to say just to contextualize our dialogue. In the formation of this particular committee, one of the things that was extremely important to us was not just moving people into affordable rentals. We wanted to create an opportunity to restore neighborhood that had been absolutely decimated through city action, through predatory purchasing, et cetera, et cetera. It was our desire to uplift and elevate and create a pathway for people to come home, for those who wanted to move back to be able to do so. And that was a high priority for this committee. So I want to remind us of that. Number 2, in relationship to that, it was to address and create a pathway for those families who were most impacted, who were most disparate as a result of city action, predatory purchasing, et cetera, et cetera. And those were Black and brown families. Now, with an understanding that we could not create a specific ethnic approach, what we did was we intentionally connected it to geography. We connected our process to where people lived. And if anyone knows Portland, we know that the people who were Black and brown lived in Northeast Portland and specifically the Interstate TIF district. So I want to go on record for reminding us of that. And as we look at these numbers, we've been very successful in creating a pathway for that to happen. I appreciate the DPAL history and the amount of dollars that were allocated at one time. As you know, I've been here the entire experience. It was Dr. Bethel who said, in light of dollars increasing, we should be increasing our down payment assistance amount. Appreciate him challenging that, the late and great Dr. Bethel, who we love dearly. Appreciate him identifying that. But when we said that, one of our concerns was, is this going to make a difference? Is this going from 80,000 to 100,000 going to have significant impact? At that time, it did. The prices were in the $300,000 range. Prices are now in the $500,000 range. $125,000 is a great increase, but I don't know that it really makes the difference. Now, John, you said if we had all the money in the world, you'd love to see it be more. I think everyone sitting here would like to see it be more. My concern is 2 things. One is, because the goal is to help as many families as possible. Understanding we increase the down payment assistance, then we reduce the numbers of families that we can secure and support. I'm curious as to whether or not there are other funds that can be secured to help support our process. I absolutely am in support of increasing our down payment assistance. I don't think $125,000 makes a big dent. It takes us to 20%, and at 7% interest rates, that's still a $400,000 mortgage, and we're still in a $3,800, $4,200 a month payment at 7%. I recently refinanced and went from, I think, 3% to 7%, and my payment went up 150%. So, yeah, it's a significant hit. It's a significant bite. We want to help families be successful, right? So I think we are in support of increase. Just want to think through what that increase could be, what the impact, what are the trade-offs associated with increasing, and are we really helping families? I don't want to frustrate a family. So now you've gone from 100,000 to 125. You still can't buy when it's $500,000, especially if you're at a two-family, 80% area median income. What are we really trying to accomplish? And so I think I don't know that $125,000 gets us there. I appreciate that the commissioner is in support of it. My concern is, what is the final outcome if we do that? Are we really getting people to the next space? I hope that makes sense. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you.
The goal versus the vehicle.
You're not on, buddy.
I'm on. Hello. When I heard him say that, the thought was the focus on what the goal is or the vehicle we're using to get there. And somewhere along in that line, I'm sort of debating that. The goal is to get more people in homes, but is the vehicle we're using to get them there actually an effective vehicle?
Thank you, sir. And we're not going to be able to take a vote tonight because we only have 6 of our members. So technically, we would need to have another in order to have an official position on it. I think by consensus, we all would say, yes, let's increase it. The questions that remain is, what's the impact, right? So it'd be great for us to have some idea around that.
Thank you very much. And I agree with you, Dr. Hope. We are looking at other resources to see if we could layer more dollars. I know the state's coming out with a NOFA, with a notice of funding availability for home ownerships. I don't know if we could layer it, but something we're still looking at.
Well, I'll say this. You have at least one advocate that would be more than willing to sit down and talk to whomever about what other ways we can fund it. And I think there's some creative things we can do. And I think that, and I'll speak candidly for me, I feel like we have been deprioritized in multiple ways as it relates to supporting and helping to have some sense of restorative justice around the impact that has happened that's created generational trauma. And so I'd love to see something happen with real investment that demonstrated this is an authentic value for our city's leadership. I'd love to see that. So thank you very much. We're going to go to our next item on the agenda. And that is our preference policy updates. Divisha and Nikki, I think you are remote tonight.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you, committee members. We are remote. My name is Nikki Loon Claire. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a rental policy and program coordinator at the Housing Bureau. I'm going to ask for Divisha, because I haven't seen her tonight, to briefly unmute and introduce herself before we move forward with the presentation.
Good evening, council members. My name is Divisha, and I am the Housing Program Coordinator for the North Northeast Housing Strategies Preference Policy. Thank you.
Yeah. So a few months ago, Divisha and I had come to the committee to discuss with you a potential pilot program that we would offer as a resource to households that were participating in the preference policy and looking to get into rental opportunities. The pilot program is designed to help assist households with a security deposit and associated moving expenses. And we wanted to come back and give you an update tonight on where we are with implementing this pilot program. Next slide, please. Just to center ourselves around the key objectives of this pilot program. As mentioned, it is aiming to cover associated costs of security deposits and moving fees. And the program is designed with the key objectives to increase access to these rental opportunities. We know that moving can be extreme financial hardship on folks, and we want to make sure that that is not the barrier that is preventing them from accessing stable and safe housing. To reduce these barriers that people often face, sometimes that can be around securing resources for moving trucks, childcare stipends, things of that nature. To promote economic stability for these households, we often hear about households having to put these moving expenses onto high interest credit cards or borrow money from friends and family or otherwise put themselves in a less economically stable position, and we'd like to see them start off on the right foot. As a pilot project, we are also generally interested in assessing and evaluating the program design for a potential expansion to other types of housing opportunities or the public at large, and to foster collaboration and stakeholder engagement around this issue that we continually hear in the Rental Services Office and from our partners that this is a resource the community is in need of. Next slide, please. I'll pass it to Divisha. Thank you.
So this program will be available to participants of the North-Northeast Preference Policy. The maximum assistance that will be made available to each participant will be $1,000 to cover the security deposit, past due utility bills, any childcare fees, rental application fees, and other eligible moving expenses that are included but not limited to truck rental, packing supplies, storage, and any cleaning service fees. We took an assessment of the security deposit amounts across the buildings that are subject to the preference policy, and the amounts of the rents were at most 1.5 times the rent, or as low as $500, leaving a significant number of dollars for people to cover other expenses that may be eligible for moving costs. Next slide, please. And I'll pass.
Thanks, Divisha. So we had brought that to you and heard feedback, and we had also talked to our preference policy housing providers to get their input on this idea and eligible expenses and hear any immediate concerns. And then we move forward with trying to find a partner in the community that could work with preference policy housing providers and ourselves in implementing the pilot program. We did post a request for letters of interest on the Housing Bureau website on July 12th. We tried to keep it very low barrier with the submission requirements and encourage some of our smaller nonprofits to engage in this work. This is a list of the requirements that organizations were asked to provide us with, their experience or ability to process and verify these types of program eligibility, reading over income documents, things like that. Summary of experience acting as a fiscal agent for financial assistance, an overview of their proposed service delivery model, including employee FTE time, volunteers, or any recruitment or training they would need to get this off the ground. Demonstrated experience, expertise in adapting programs in response to changing requirements. Just generally, this is a pilot program, so we want to make sure that folks can be nimble and adapt to anything that may come up while we roll out the program for this first year. And an estimated administrative cost structure and a description of those costs. Next slide, please.
So here is the timeline we had for publishing the request for letters of interest. We published on July 12th. We followed that with an email blast to over 200 recipients. We also followed that with a targeted email invitation to 7 culturally specific organizations that we have partnered with in the past, in addition to newer organizations. We held a non-mandatory virtual information session on July 19th, to which we had about 6 different organizations participate. Those organizations were African Youth and Community Organization, Center for African Immigrants and Refugees, Hockey, Kelly Nonprofit Consulting, and the Micronesian Islander Community and United Way. We had a submission deadline of August 2nd to give ample time for organizations to respond to the RFI. We received letters of interest from 2 organizations. Those were ICO and United Way. We had an evaluation panel, which were represented by commissioners of various advisory bodies that took place in late August. Then we published the notice of intent to award to United Way on September 5th. Next slide, please. These are just the logos to represent the different organizations that we had the opportunity to reach out to and organizations that were in attendance at the meeting. Next slide, please.
Thank you. And an update on our next step rolling out this pilot program. We're going to continue to work on program development, which is designing and refining the program structure with the identified partner, which again is United Way of Columbia Willamette. To define our key performance indicators, we will be working with Dr. Uma Krishnan of our data team, who has done various pilot programs before, along with some of our standard metrics that we collect on these types of programs. We will develop our data collection methods and make sure that they are trained in the types of systems that we typically use and support with our partner organizations, and then establish any additional operational procedures and program evaluation needs with United Way. We have our first meeting with them tomorrow morning, where we're hoping to really start moving on each of these items so that they could then be packaged up and we could move forward with contracting and making the resources available to the community. Once we get those design and data questions nailed down, we do want to make sure we hold a meeting with partner agencies and housing providers that would be making referrals of the preference policy households to these resources, and make sure that everybody is aware of the process and is clear on the types of resources that are available and the amounts of resources. We then begin outreach and the application process, and then deploy the resources into the community. Later on, once we get further into the pilot program, we will then begin conducting program monitoring with the partner and assessment of the program outcomes. Next slide, please.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the update and the information. I will go through each committee member, asking them individually if they have any questions or comments, and I will begin with Tanisha.
No, I don't have any questions or comments.
Thank you very much. Jillian.
Can you remind me how many security deposit assistance you're planning for the pilot project?
Yes, thank you, Jillian. It will depend on the amount of resources that are used by each household. We do have $56,000 in direct assistance available for this pilot program, so it is small, and we have that cap of $1,000 per household. So we're looking to serve at minimum 56 households, potentially some more, depending on how quickly those dollars get spent, and if every household hits the maximum.
Thanks. And these are preference policy households who are moving into preference policy properties?
Correct.
So my question is, why not roll the funds out directly to the properties? It just, I feel like, are we perhaps adding another hoop to jump through, actually creating a barrier when we're trying to remove a barrier by having another nonprofit, in this case United Way, come in and manage this program when there are already so many hoops to jump through just to get into a regulated affordable unit?
Yeah, it's a good question. There are a few considerations there. One, just naturally, a conflict of interest exists between the people that are assessing security deposits and fees and the resources that may be made directly available to them. So that's one thing that we wanted to address. Secondly, we do want to cover things that aren't necessarily directly security deposits, such as those moving expenses for a truck, maybe some packers if a household is disabled and has mobility issues, things of that nature that an organization that has done similar work may be more adept to do than a housing provider. It also allows us to keep all those metrics in a single spot. And if we are to roll out this program to other populations beyond preference policy, it's not tied up with the housing providers themselves.
Thank you. I think that's all of my questions. I am really hopeful that this will be successful and help some people move into housing and remove some barriers to housing, because there are quite a lot. Thanks.
Yeah.
And good to see you again.
Additional comment there that Debbie and I are being very aware of the amount of paperwork and barriers and proof of income and all of these documents that households are asked to provide. And we are looking to minimize that as much as possible and have housing providers utilize the documents that they've already collected and transfer that in a secure way to United Way so that the household themselves doesn't have to go through another duplication effort of proving eligibility.
That's awesome. That's a great way to not duplicate work. Thank you.
I'll just add, because I'm the executive team sponsor for this pilot now. And one of the things that we were concerned about if you go to multiple places is the admin. Everybody wants a little piece, and so the admin fee, when you start spreading it around, it gets to the point where there's nothing left for services. So that's why we opted for a single source to be the financial intermediary for this pilot. And once we see how that goes, maybe we could do something different in the next iteration or the next iteration after that if we have enough money. But we really wanted to try to focus and be able to collect data and not have that multiple places of trying to get information.
Thank you. Ms. Vergie.
Yes.
Any comment, question?
No, I'm just kind of stuck in one area. When John and Ira were doing their presentation, I wanted to inquire, do we even know or even consider their current situation of the client? Are their rents at the same level that we're talking about because they're renting from somebody, including affordable housing members.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, is there a difference in the payments?
That's great. We'll come back to that if we have a moment. And I apologize that I didn't see your tent up,
No,
so I didn't call on you during that section. But thank you for that. Any comment related to this section?
Not at the moment, no, because I'm still back
Gotcha.
there.
I got you.
Yeah.
Aquiles, regarding
I have a
this moment.
question. Have you guys reach out to Bienestar de la Familia or to the Multnomah County, because they do it all the time anyway, and they have a lot of experience collecting data to helping people moving ready and all that. I'm just thinking
We
Bienestar
did
de
an
la
RFP
Familia. Okay,
and sent it out pretty widely.
They didn't
and
respond.
so we got 2 responses.
got it. And I noticed also that there was no Latino Network or Programa Hispano. Then there was none of them
They didn't
responded.
apply. No,
Okay.
it's a small amount of money. So, a lot of folks aren't willing to jump in the pool for a little bit of money.
Yeah, a lot of work for little dollars. John.
Ditto.
Thank you. Thank you for the report tonight. We appreciate it. Thanks for the update. And I think we would echo Jillian's sentiments. We hope that these dollars are going to help families, that they're going to reduce barriers and create assistance. So
I would like to say
great work.
on that is that, Leslie, is if the amount grows, the intersection point for housing transitions is not necessarily just located in people who work in the housing sector. And so, because in the business sector, we run into a lot of upward mobility in dealing with home ownership and or affordability, all these kinds of things. So that seems to always come to the table with people who are starting their businesses, and that the conversation of home ownership and movement is always a key conversation. So we're always, that intersection is just a given at the table. So just a reminder.
Thank you very much. We're going to go to 5020 and the 5020 update.
Tom Eldridge, and
Yeah, there's Sahan right there.
Oh, there he is.
Sahan and Tom, I don't know who's going first, but we put it in your hands.
Thank you, everybody. Wanted to say a couple things before we jump in. First of all, John and Ira, you will have at least 2 advocates, because I would love to speak to anybody that needs to hear about the benefits of increasing down payment assistance above $125,000. Was able to catch the end of that presentation, and just wanted to say that first. Second, I guess I should say who I am. Sahan McKelvey, Director of Community and Family Programs for SEI Self-Enhancement, Inc. And we are here in partnership with our partners at Community Development Partners to speak about our second project and third building together. I want to say that I wish I was able to be here with you all today in person, but glad that we're able to share virtually through this medium. And we'll let Thomas introduce himself as well.
Thanks, Sahan, and good evening, Northeast Oversight Committee. My name is Thomas Eldridge, and I am the Development Manager on what I think most people will know as 5020 North Interstate, but as you'll see in one of the updates, it is now called the Dr. Darrell Milner Building. So happy to be here with you all and provide the update on how things are going. So with that, if we could move on to the next slide, please. Okay, so there's my face and there's Sahan's face as well. I know that we had some different folks here last time. And then just moving on to this slide, I won't dwell on this one too long, but just touching on the partnership that CDP and SEI have had. As Sahan said, 5020 was our second project together, technically our third building though. And since we were awarded this project through PHB's Metro offering in 2021, 2022, we've actually acquired a couple more projects as well. So if we could go to the next slide, please.
Thomas, real quick, just wanted to share on the Dr. Darrell Milner Building. I know Leslie asked if we can share how the name of the building came about.
Sure, yeah, go for it.
Thomas said this is our third building together, our second project. And as we were in the development process for these buildings and thinking about what do we want to call them, we thought about or came upon the idea that what we want to do was to be able to honor significant contributors to the local African-American community, but we wanted to do that while they are still here with us. So our first 2 buildings in our first project, these are all part of our larger Alberta Alive partnership, but we named our first building that is a family building dedicated to serving families after Mr. Ronnie Herndon. We named our second building that is primarily for veterans after Mr. Paul Knowles, who is a veteran himself, and Mr. Knowles and Mr. Herndon have both made significant contributions to the African-American community locally for a very long time. And then this building, we wanted to honor Dr. Darrell Milner and just the man that he has been in documenting the history of our people in this place, we felt was extremely significant and wanted to be able to honor that and felt like it was appropriate as part of this project and part of this collaborative with the city of Portland and the preference policy to honor Dr. Darrell Milner in the name of this building. And again, we wanted to be able to do that for some of our impactful African-American community members while they are still with us to be able to receive that honor.
That's great. It's fantastic.
Thank you, Sahan. So yeah, to run through the developments that SEI and CDP have done today, I think this is self-explanatory, but number 2 is the Dr. Darrell Milner Building, which is, as you can see, just to the left of the I-5. The Strong Family property, I know CDP and SEI and Sahan was part of that, presented to the Northeast Oversight Committee back in May. And then I heard Leslie mention as well the home ownership project that we're looking at, that is actually opposite CDP's headquarters, which is shown on this map as well. So that project hasn't come to fruition yet, but it's in the pipeline. So hopefully that'll be shown on this map here shortly. And then finally, I think most folks will know that SCI, not only are they the partner on all of our projects, they're providing resident services on all our projects as well. So go to the next slide, please. Okay, project updates. Next slide. Thank you. So just briefly here, we started construction back in July 2022. We're targeting a late February 2024 date. So we're currently around about 50% with complete with construction. So I think if most folks are familiar with where it is, you'll see that we've topped out now, windows are in, and we're starting to wrap the building. DMW ESB goals, we've exceeded our 30% goals. We're at 31% right now, and it's going to stay at around about there. And then I know this was briefly mentioned in the last project update as well, but the on-site staff are a 100% minority. Our contractor is LMC, and they're actually being shadowed by a minority-owned general contractor as well, which is called Almar Contracting. So they're along for the ride as well. So if you could go to the next slide, please. So these are some raw pictures of the site. So if you're familiar with it, you've probably seen the picture on the far left there. The one on the right, the picture in the middle is looking into the courtyard. So just down below there where you can see a cherry picker, there'll be some children's play apparatus and some parking spaces and some outdoor area. And then the picture to the right, I realize that looks a little bit of a mess, but that's just what the inside of the building looks like for anyone who's interested. So yeah, that's what the construction looks like currently. So next slide, please. So as for other highlights, branding, Sahan mentioned the naming. That was obviously a huge piece of the branding for not just this project, but for what Sahan mentioned was the Alberta Alive series of projects. So just touching on the branding, just on the far right there, that pattern you're seeing there, I think the website is up and running. So we'll have a Alberta Alive website where all of these projects will come under. So the Dr. Darrell Milner building is getting updated to that website here shortly. And we've been working with PHB on how we need to include URLs and links for folks to navigate to the North-Northeast preference policy. But as for the branding, I'm hoping that once we start to get further along, you'll see, like I say, that pattern and some other odds and ends which have come out of that exercise. It's starting to progress. We will need to present to the local neighborhood association as it relates to a mural, which we'll be doing on the external facade. So we've just started our efforts with that. We're working with a similar art coordinator who worked on the other two Alberta Alive projects. The mural shown there is for the Paul Knowles building. So that's not the Dr. Darrell Milner building, but that's just a taster or a flavor for what's coming on the Paul Knowles building. And then we're also going to be working with the same art coordinator for internal art as well.
Tom, before you run, just out of curiosity, and maybe Sahan is the one who can name it, who are the people on the mural?
That is a question. I wish I could tell you all of them, but I don't remember. We did get the list of folks who are on the mural. They are all have some affiliation to local African-American veterans and have done work for the advocacy of local African-American veterans. You can see Geneva and Mr. Knowles on the bottom. And then you see, again, I wish I could tell you them all. I have the list.
Looks like Bishop Hardy.
I'll send it to you.
Yeah, it looks like Will Hardy right in the middle. And then it looks like, John Garlington right above Will Hardy. That's what it looks like to me, but I can't tell the others.
I don't know if that's John Garlington. Now that you say that, I kind of wish it was, but I don't know.
You don't know?
If that's John Garlington,
Gotcha.
but
Kind of familiar. Okay.
I'll definitely get the list for you all and
Thank
be
you.
able to send that out so we can get that full list.
Perfect.
Yeah, definitely wanted to create art that went with the theme of the building, and for that specific building, the Paul Knowles building that is dedicated for African-American veterans is the primary population we would love to see living there. Wanted to be able to do artwork in a mural that honored that concept. And so that's the direction that we went there. And we're very happy with the look of the final product that the artist gave to us. And we'll be doing a similar process, as Thomas mentioned, for the Dr. Darrell Milner building, commissioning an art piece for the exterior mural that honors the concept of this building and hopefully is a piece of the community environment and the community space that we're trying to create there.
Hey, how you doing, big fella?
Hold on one second, John. We're going to let him finish, and then we'll come in. So go ahead.
It was about the
Back to you,
mural.
John. Thank you. Oh, it was about the mural? Yeah.
You know, we've got some little bit of background on these mural pieces, and, you know, I would like to suggest that to you is that you put, instead of putting a mural directly on the building, is that you put it on some porcelain back steel or something like that, that it becomes an actual art piece, and that it just doesn't diminish, because the materials that you might be using on the building, it may have just a life expectancy of about 5 to 7 years before it starts diminishing. So it would be suggested that you put that art on a piece that is potentially removable from the building. So just some thoughts, I mean, because it definitely doesn't look good. Those murals are short-term realities, so it's just a suggestion if you want to have some value to the building over a long term.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely, I hear you, and thank you for that. I'm not enough of an artist to be able to tell you if that was done or not, but that is definitely something that we could pass along.
Excellent. We'll let you continue and finish your presentation.
Thank you. And then commercial space, just a quick note on that. So we have 2 commercial spaces at the Dr. Darrell Milner building. And I'm pleased to report that we've struck an LOI recently with a minority and women-owned business for the small commercial space. So hopefully if the lease agreement there proceeds, we can share that business owner with you all at the next update. And then finally, just a quick note here is that our team had our Northeast Preference Policy training session with Devisha and Leslie a month or so back. So just an update there. If you could go to the next slide, please. So as for what's next, I mentioned us engaging with artists for the external mural, which again, we need to take to the Neighborhood Association for input. So we'll have that hopefully arranged certainly before the end of the year. And then off the back of the Northeast training sessions we have with PHB, we're going to be conducting some informational sessions. And currently the plan right now is to host one at SEI's HQ and then also one at CDP's HQ as well. So just a reminder that the Alberta Abbey will be acting as the community hub for the majority of the Alberta Alive projects as well. So that should be a nice introduction for folks to become familiar with that. And then finally, I know I mentioned us completing construction in late February. So we're going to be looking at leasing up units, hopefully slightly ahead of that. And then come March 2024, there should be families living in there. So yeah, just around the corner. And I think that's it. Go to the next slide. Yeah, that was it. So any questions for Sahan and I?
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I will begin on this side with Ms. Virgie. Any questions?
No questions.
Thank you very much. I will then defer to Tanisha. Any questions?
No, I don't have any questions. I apologize. I'm driving, picking my daughter up, but I don't have questions.
No worries. We're glad you're here. Mr. Washington.
No, I'm good.
Thank you. Jillian.
No questions, just really excited to see the progress on this site. Really excited that it has a new name, although after several years, it's going to be hard not to call it 5020. Yeah, it's just great to see the progress and know that people are going to be living there soon. And once again, I just want to point out that it was a really creative solution for PHB to RFP this with the full design and be able to get this moving so quickly. It's really unheard of for an affordable housing project to go from RFP to people moving in like 2 years, which is this will have achieved. And so just kudos all around, and look forward to the grand opening.
Thank you, Achilles.
And just a quick question, what will be the average rent? Have you guys set up for that? Is there going to be a one bedroom, 2, 3? What's the average rent it's going to be?
I haven't got the rents exactly in front of me right now, but they're a blend of 30% AMI and 60% AMI rents. So from the 63 units, I want to say like 20 or 18 of them are 30% AMI, and then the rest are going to be set at 60% AMI. So yeah, apology, I don't have those exactly in front of me right now, but that's, yeah. Are they going to be set?
So we have them at the office, Achilles, so we can send those over to you. I do have two things that I wanted to ask. And Jillian said it first about the grand opening. I just want to make sure that this committee is invited, not, oh, you can come, because there's a difference between getting an invitation and doing a general come one, come all. This committee was instrumental. Thank you. You took the word right out of my, in this project in both its iterations. And so I really want to see them have an opportunity to participate in that. So I know it's a little ways off, but just want to put that out there. And then the second thing is how large is the second commercial space?
It's just under, it's 2,000 square feet.
Okay, because the folks that are in the police building, in the Walnut Park building, the tenants that are in there are likely going to be looking for some space. And so it might be a great opportunity for them to move, one of them to move into that space. We could have a conversation.
That'd be great.
But we just had a meeting yesterday and that we were talking about that. So thank you so much for this. I'm very excited for this project for us to cut the ribbon and walk through the doors.
Great presentation tonight. I won't echo everything that's been said other than to say this. 5020 has been a significant concern for us as a committee, and seeing it move into a space of successful engagement is a great celebration. It's worth making noise about. So we look forward to the ribbon cutting and being a part of helping it be successful. Appreciate your thoughtfulness. I also want to say I appreciate how much you've paid attention to these meetings and made adjustments, and I think reflect the kind of stewardship we hope that the people who are operating in these spaces will take. So good to see you both.
Thank you very much.
All right, we're going to talk a little bit about a Supreme Court affirmative action decision and its impacts. Ms. Goodlow.
So I'm going to go through this real quickly. A few weeks ago, the Supreme Court struck down affirmative action in admissions based on a court case about Harvard and University of North Carolina. Yes, boo. And so there have been reverberations across the country about the impacts of this case. Even though it was about college admissions, we know nothing stays related to just what the case, and that things tend to have yeast added to them, and they start touching many, many things. And so after that case, we circled the wagons at PHB with our city attorney to determine what, if anything, we were at risk for based on some of the programs that we currently provide. Fortunately, and the city attorney's office believes that the preference policy is the most low-risk policy and program in the city, and that it is a model for other folks to use. Even though we have been accused of using geography as a proxy for race, the city attorney believes that they could defend the program, the policy, how we made the decisions, very data-driven policy, and it has passed HUD's sniff test. It passes a fair housing sniff test. And so just wanted to let you all know that we are continuing to look at how we can continue to support BIPOC communities here in Portland, low-income communities, folks that we know have had the most displacement, that continue to be the hardest hit whenever there's something that happens. So we know that communities of color were the hardest hit from COVID. We know that Black people in Portland continue to have the lowest income, the lowest home ownership, the highest renters. Any of the categories that you look at, we know that Black people are either, if it's a good measure, they're at the bottom, and if it's a bad measure, they tend to be at the top. And so how can we structure programs that put us in the moderate to low risk as opposed to high risk? And we had a great meeting with the city attorney, what's today? Thursday? Tuesday. Days are kind of rolling together. And, they are committed to defending what we, if we go into something with data and make the case that this is the reason why we're doing what we're doing, that they will defend it, even if they think we might lose. So we wanted to let you all know that we are thinking about this at the city. We are thinking about it across the city, not just at housing, but Prosper is looking at it with their programs. They have a little different situation because they actually wrote racial goals into a lot of their things, whereas we don't have those. We had a few, but much fewer than other bureaus. And we're going to continue to work through it with our city attorney and make sure that decisions we make don't put us in a position where we can be sued or programs get ripped out from under us. We know that the governor's program with the CARES or COVID, ARPA, I'm not sure which funding that went out to Black people in Oregon was challenged, and they ended up settling on that, and we don't want that to happen. So that's why we had it on the agenda today, and if you have any questions or concerns or comments, I'm happy to answer whatever I can answer, but we will keep you informed as we work through this.
Thank you very much, Ms. Goodloe. Tanisha, any comments or questions?
No, I don't have any comments or questions.
Okay, thank you. Jillian.
White supremacy is a hell of a drug. It is these laws that are here to protect brown and Black people are utilized or weaponized by white people in fair housing challenges, in the money that went out to Black families through the state of Oregon, and now with this challenge on affirmative action. It is upsetting isn't the word that I would use, but I can't use the words that I would use. I think one of the things that makes the preference policy so unique, the reason that since I've been on this committee, have been emailed and asked by people all over the country about this program is because it was really designed with the weaponization of the Fair Housing Act in mind. And it will survive. I feel confident it would survive a fair housing challenge. It would survive this new decimation of affirmative action. And I just, it's radical and it works. And one of the reasons that it works and that it is impacting Black families is because of the redlining and the racist history in Oregon. And this right to return based on location impacts Black families because of the history of racism in Portland. And so it's a good thing that it is impacting and reaching the people that we want it to reach, but I think it's important that I never forget the reason that it's working is because of a deeply racist system, a deeply racist and white supremacist system of land use and redlining, and I could go on and on, but I'm glad that the city attorney is saying that he or she will defend these policies, even if they think that they're going to lose. But obviously I'm not an attorney and this is not legal advice, but this is clever and I think will be replicated in other cities over time.
Thank you very much. Ms. Virgie, any comments?
None.
Thank you. Aquiles.
No, I just want to say kudos to all the people that put this policy together, that it was well put together, thinking ahead of all those issues that could come up. So it's great.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, I remember all those meetings. But, I don't usually come to the aid of white people too often. But it wasn't white people that set precedence with this one. It was an Asian person that went after the affirmative action situation down there. So rather if it was white American behind them or whatever, it was definitely a young Asian person that established the suit. Being Black in America is interesting. That's all I can say the least is that, whatever
every day.
Whatever precedents that is set forth to advance in the agenda is definitely met with an equal and opposite reaction. And, whatever that's about, I can't tell you, but all I can tell you is that in the theme of Martin Luther King or anybody else that is a civil rights advocate and movement is that we just got to keep on moving toward the finish line because, each and every day requires us to put out that effort to resolve some of our issues. And so I just suggest we keep on keeping on.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, Ms. Goodlow, for the report and helping us know status and potential impact. It's great to hear that there is a commitment to uphold something that's right. Sometimes what we have done is we've mistaken legal for right. Just because something is legal doesn't mean it's right. This is something that's right, and it's right to be done because the raising of the water raises all boats. And if you look at the boats that are normally at the bottom, as you indicated, it is the people who are Black and brown. The profound thing to me, though, around it is this, and I get to say what I want to say because I'm the chair. The profound thing around this moment, especially as it relates to people of color, Black folks, brown folks, Asian people, whomever, the sad thing that disturbs me is that we keep putting emphasis on things that none of us chose. None of us chose the color of our skin. No one in this room had anything to do, or anyone who hears me by way of this broadcast, had anything to do with how they showed up on the earth. This is your earth suit. Our shared commonality is not our ethnicity. Our shared commonality is our humanity. And the issue that keeps being demonstrated is how inhumane people can be. And once you've been privileged and had access to privilege, how you fight to keep it. If we want to call truth truth, that's what we're dealing with. And we need champions around truth who will speak to this reality. I didn't choose my brownness like no one chose their whiteness. As a matter of fact, it wasn't even an issue until the 16th century. Our deeper issue is that we are stained as people. And until we find some sense of shared dignity in our humanity. We're going to continue to have these kinds of things cycle and be able to excuse them away. The essence of it is people in power don't want to share power. People in privilege don't want to give up privilege. And it doesn't matter what community you look at or if you examine it over the years, every people group have perpetuated the same thing. We keep missing our central shared human dignity and value. So I'm glad that the attorney is going to fight for it. I know that it will be supported as indicated. It's gone through HUD's sniff test. It's gone through fair housing sniff test. What's unfortunate is that we would even have to make it an issue again. If we could get to a place of understanding our shared humanity, what would make sense is that we're looking at ways to benefit everyone. How do we raise everybody who's been impacted? How do we create pathways that support authentic opportunities? But until then, we keep moving forward. Yeah. So thank you. Thank you for the report tonight. We're going to open it up for public comment. If there are any that have signed up, we have no one signed up for public comment. Well, let me wrap it up. Great reports tonight. Great success tonight. Many years have gone into getting us to this point. I want to say thanks specifically to the Oversight Committee. Thank you for giving your time and your energy and your effort to this meaningful work. For those who are here and who are tuning in or who will catch this later, I appreciate you spending some time around something that should be a human right. And that's that everyone has access to safe, affordable places to dwell. We keep moving forward. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you.
Recording